Here's the part of the story that surprises people, because they hear war zone and they picture nothing but suffering. And yes, there was suffering. There was loss. There were things I carried that I'll talk about on this podcast when the time is right. But there was also this. I made 6 figures working over there. And before you think this turns into a flex, hold on. Because what I learned about money during that time is one of the most important lessons of my life. Money isn't everything. And with money comes its own problems, its own complications, its own decisions that you think you're making from a place of wisdom, but you're really making from a place of wanting to fix things that aren't yours to fix. I was very generous with my money, and most of that generosity I am proud of. I built a family memorial with headstones for my family members. That's something I'd do again in a heartbeat. That mattered. That was legacy. But there was another decision, helping my mom and dad with a very close personal matter, that I thought was the right thing to do at the time. I thought it was my responsibility. It wasn't. It wasn't my responsibility. But I was 25, 26, making more money than I'd ever seen. And I thought money could solve things that money can't solve. And we are still living with the effects of that decision. I regret that one. Not because I didn't have good intentions, but because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not step in. And I hadn't learned that yet. 6 figures taught me that. But the job also gave me something that money can't buy. And regret can't take away. Cocktails at the top of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Ziplining through the jungle canopy in Thailand. Exploring ancient caves in Belize. Or walking through monkey forest in Bali and laughing until I couldn't breathe. Scuba diving in water so clear you forget that the surface world exists. These are my memories. These are things that happened to me. A girl from a military family who got her heart broken in a war zone and then saw the world. Because that's what the job gave me. 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end, and then R&R. And during those R&Rs, I didn't sit in a hotel room and feel sorry for myself. Well, maybe sometimes I did, but I'm human. But mostly I lived. I went places I never would have gone. I saw things I never would have seen. I experienced cultures and landscapes and moments of pure breathtaking beauty that exist on this planet and that most people will never witness. Not because they can't, but because life never puts them on the path. My path went through a war zone. And on the other side of that war zone were some of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. And between 2004 and 2013, Iraq to Afghanistan, and everything in between, I went from a heartbroken 25-year-old who didn't know who she was without her marriage to a woman. A fully formed, hella independent, seeing the world, handled her business woman. Nobody taught me that. The experience taught me that. The deployments taught me that. The heartbreak taught me that. Picking yourself up when you're thousands of miles from home and there's no one coming to save you. That taught me that. My time in the Middle East humbled me in ways that I never imagined. It taught me to think differently, to see the bigger picture before making judgments, to get all sides of a story before forming an opinion, to consider all aspects of what could possibly go wrong before you act. That's not just life wisdom there. That's a clinical skill. That's nursing. That's critical thinking. And I learned it in a war zone, not a classroom.